Talk Radio 790 KABC, the John Phillips Show. Mr. Randy Wiggs in Culver City.
John, at this morning's L.A. City Council meeting, L.A. City Councilwoman Imelda Padilla had a message for some of the protesters that have been getting a little out of control in downtown L.A. the last couple of days.
For the young people out there that have been protesting all weekend, and rumors are that they're going to be doing more, I do want to say that we're hearing you. We get you. Many of us are on your side. But I do ask that you are productive and that you are peaceful and that you do not do things that are going to gravitate or force your haters to criticize you more than give you props for your messaging. Gravitate or force your haters to criticize you more than give you props for your messaging. So I just wanted to make sure that we knew that because we all have to be in this, or else our immigrant community, or all of Los Angeles, is going to continue to shake with fear, and that's not okay. Thank you.
In other words, the down-ass kids don't like throwing water bottles at police officers.
The neighborhood kids, the down-ass kids, don't like it.
Well, it's not just that. They're surrounding cars. They're destroying public property. They're throwing items, not just frozen water bottles, but other items at the cops. And they're flying the foreign flags of other nations.
One of the jackasses yesterday tried to shoot fireworks at a police helicopter.
On what planet do they think this is helping their cause?
By the way, no arrests last night or citations.
Gravitate or force your haters to criticize you more than give you props for your messaging.
Mostly peaceful protest.
Street pavements that are cooler.
It's wild to me that depending on what your message is, that's what dictates the police response. So these people are regarded as being sympathetic by the mayor and the city council, so they can do whatever they want. When the Black Lives Matter protesters were out, they could do whatever they wanted. It's fine. But if you're the abortion protesters or January the 6th, they throw the book at you. And they wonder why people look at this unequal application of the law and they say the deck is stacked against one group of people and the law just takes a knee for everyone else. Because that's exactly what's happening right now in Los Angeles. Now, yesterday, we played for you a couple of the different news reports about these protests going on, these law-breaking protests against ICE, the Immigration Customs Enforcement Agency. And Randy, as she mentioned, we had yet another day of it.
Let's first see how ABC 7 covered the protest yesterday.
Breaking at 11 for the second straight day, anti-mass deportation protesters clashed with police in downtown L.A. Now,
Mark Brown plays it straight.
Now riot police are moving in, working to disperse the crowd and arresting those who refuse to leave.
Nobody actually got arrested.
Of course not.
Eyewitness News reporter Michelle Fisher has been in the middle of the protest all night long and spoke to many of the people involved. Michelle.
Well, Mark, this protest seems to just keep moving around downtown Los Angeles. I want to step out of the way so you can see what's happening behind me. We're at Cesar Chavez in Alameda, where a small group of protesters relatively has now taken over the Chevron gas station here.
Wait, what?
Oh, yeah, that's exercising your First Amendment right, commandeering a Chevron.
Is the cashier okay?
I would hope so.
If the cashier is dummy.
It's now taken over the Chevron gas station here.
What about taking over a gas station is protest?
Well, it's mostly peaceful.
We have seen people standing on top of cars, waving their...
That's peaceful.
Oh, yes. And legal, too.
Waving their flags. Even at one point, someone doing donuts on a motorbike.
Yeah, one of these big protest areas turned into a street takeover. It's complete lawlessness, and we're allowing it. This is not a protest.
They're just using this as the excuse to go ahead and do what they typically do on the weekends during the week.
Seems like as soon as one area gets cleared by police, shortly thereafter, protesters converge on another area. Police, we have seen handcuffing people, walking them away from the crowd, and then releasing those individuals. But again, it seems they just make their way back to another spot.
Of course.
If that's how you're going to handle it, then guess what? You're going to get more of it.
Here is what people said earlier as we caught up with them as this protest has played out throughout the day.
At what point do we just call it a riot?
This mayor that we have is such an unbelievable joke. Who is defending her at this point?
Not a lot of people.
Imagine if you worked at that Chevron, you're the cashier there, and suddenly a mob of people take over, and then no one gets arrested. And you need to check your privilege there.
Maybe Karen Bass will offer some therapy to that cashier.
If you're feeling down, if you're feeling blue, let's get help for you.
All right, so far we're a minute into that piece, and they played it fairly straight, talking about some of the mayhem that went on.
A day without immigrants turning into a night with tense moments.
Wait, that rhymed.
A day without immigrants turning into a night with tense moments.
I wonder if they did that on purpose.
Of course they did.
As LAPD officers moved in to clear protesters after dispersal orders were issued in downtown LA around 6 Monday.
I've been here since probably 3 p.m. I'm here peacefully. I understand there's things that are going on that I'm not in agreement with, especially with the people who were throwing water bottles at the police.
Oh.
Add that to the list.
I got pushed by the police.
Nicolette, an immigrant from Honduras, saying she simply wants to share her message.
I feel like President Trump has
How about you do a TikTok video?
Oh, no. Taking over a Chevron, that'll resonate with the people of Iowa and all the swing states.
I feel like President Trump has not been deporting criminals, actual criminals. I feel like it's just hatred and just overall racism. And
How about the videos of the criminals that got deported?
Remember the guy from Haiti?
The guy that thanked Biden for helping him out so much and said, I'm not going back to effing Haiti?
That's right. And said that Obama did everything for him. And then you look at the guy's rap sheet and you go, okay, we're going to need more pages. Put more ink in that printer. And then he goes, you can't send me back to Haiti. And then they cut to Tom Homan, who was a guest on one of the cable chat shows, and he goes, oh, he's going back to Haiti.
The messaging on this is so nonsensical. You even look at the special session yesterday where Rivas voted through the package of money for Bonta to sue the Trump administration and a whole bunch of money that's supposed to go towards immigration services for people that get deported. And Gavin Newsom and the Republicans asked the legislature if they could include in that bill's language that none of that money would go towards felons. And they said no.
Here's typically what happens during political food fights. We know how the American system is set up. With James Madison and the founders, what they set up was a situation where everyone has a seat at the table, everyone gets involved in a food fight, no one gets 100% of what they want, and we all end up with a resolution that we can basically live with. And for the most part, that works. Where it doesn't work, if you are hoping that your point of view will be the predominant point of view, is if you take the most extreme aspects of your position and that's what you make the debate about. If you make the most extreme parts of your position the centerpiece of where the discourse is, which is exactly what they're doing, how dare you throw out these criminals? These criminals are part of families, and you are breaking up families, and we're going to take over the Chevron until you see it our way.
Overall racism, and it was really sad to hear that there was Latinos who voted for Trump. It made me so upset that you are betraying your people.
I feel like we could do a whole hour of calls on that.
Okay, let's just take a look at her arguments. I'm here from another country, and now it's time for me to boss you around. And oh, by the way, I hate my own people. You're a bunch of race traitors.
You're not a fan.
Who does she think she's converting?
Latinos who voted for Trump. It made me so upset that you are betraying your people.
I follow all the steps to becoming a citizen, and they have to do the same.
Okay.
What they're doing right now is very unacceptable.
Gabriela Diaz, a counter-protester who immigrated from Mexico at 19.
Hey, look at this. There's a counter-protester.
All right, so they're at least putting the other point of view up there.
Gabriela Diaz, a counter-protester who immigrated from Mexico in 1990, calling Trump an exemplary president, despite his administration's new immigration policies.
Oh, the girl before hates you.
Race traitor.
Including mass deportations, attempts to end birthright citizenship, and shutting down the CBP One app used by asylum seekers.
I don't think he realizes what immigrants, again, look like. I am part of that group that is being targeted, but because I have an education, but because I contribute and work, and I am not the stereotypical immigrant.
Wait, what is the stereotypical immigrant?
Yeah, I'm not following you, lady.
What is the stereotype that you are saying is being put out there?
And by the way, aren't you at a street takeover?
He needs to see that this is what an immigrant is.
Thousands who gathered first in front of City Hall and then along the overpasses on the 101 freeway, hoping their message was received. Some even willing to go to jail if need be.
Yeah, but nobody did go to jail. And that's why we're into day 3 of these protests.
It's just in theory.
Around 9:30 tonight, this scene in Chavez Tunnel as officers made contact with demonstrators who refused to clear the streets, putting them in handcuffs but releasing them moments later.
Gee, I wonder who gave out that order.
I'll tell you. I don't think this mayor could be any worse if she tried. You know how hard it is to be worse than Garcetti?
I receive things on both ends.
It's pretty difficult.
Now, we have seen just within the last moments, LAPD officers coming through this intersection here, telling people, get out of the street. You are subject to arrest over loudspeakers.
Yeah, but they don't believe that.
Yeah, and they don't believe it for good reason, because they know it's a hollow threat.
Those individuals have cleared this intersection. But again, this gas station here on the corner now really becoming a gathering spot for these protesters. Of course, a day without immigrants.
A day without a chevron.
What is this talk about a day without immigrants? It seems like they're very visible.
Happening not only here in downtown Los Angeles, but also in Riverside and Orange counties today, also really across the entire country. We can report tonight, though, this remaining relatively peaceful.
She's at a street takeover where the chevron has been occupied.
Relatively peaceful.
Remaining relatively peaceful, and as we know so far, no injuries have been reported. But again, this is the second night we have seen this scene play out in downtown Los Angeles, so hopefully it remains peaceful and calm.
You're at a commandeered chevron.
This is so Orwellian, where I don't know what you do if you're the news director, if the point of view you want out there is that this is totally peaceful and everyone's following the rules, and she's at a street takeover where a chevron has been commandeered. What do? Just have the screen go black where you just hear the audio?
And calm relatively throughout the rest of tonight.
Calm relatively. There's a qualifier.
That's the piece from ABC 7.
All right. Now, KCAL, who was the most biased station yesterday, also took their crack at it.
Let's see how they did. Oh, they're starting with the street takeover.
Okay. That sounds like Fast and Furious.
A national movement turned into chaos in downtown L.A. The Day Without Immigrants protest got dangerous after dark, but they...
Dangerous after dark. There's some alliteration.
Okay, well, at least they're covering it straight so far.
Had started out as peaceful marches against the Trump administration's immigration policies.
And KCAL News reporter Rick Montanez joins us live from downtown L.A. with the look at the scale of last night's demonstration. Rick.
Yeah, thousands of people out here. They started as early as 9 o'clock yesterday. We were with some of them, families included in that group of protesters. And then, of course, things turned, as you mentioned, after dark. And there was trouble with some in the crowd and LAPD, though this morning, LAPD tells us no arrests were made, no citations issued.
Not even a ticket.
You see, this is where the mayor gives the news media the license to take a narrative that is not true and run with it. Well, it was mostly peaceful. No one got arrested after all, as if the cops had any say over that.
and no injuries, which is incredible when you see this video here. You look at this Mustang convertible. The driver of this car doing donuts in the intersection then slams the car into a curb, nearly knocking the passengers out of the back of that car.
That sounds like an injury.
That sounds mostly peaceful to me.
We also saw what appears to be the same car doing donuts still and nearly striking a Metro bus.
Again, no injuries, no arrests, no citations. Lawlessness. This is straight up lawlessness, but we allow this kind of crap every weekend.
Oh, Alexis de Tocqueville would be proud.
That was just one of several chaotic incidents. Another one, our crews were able to see that someone was knocked down by a driver. A motorcycle mowed down a man in an intersection.
Didn't you just say no injuries reported? And you literally reported one.
20 seconds ago, he said that.
Well, he said LAPD reported no injuries and then followed that with, we just witnessed an injury. Actually, they witnessed several.
We saw that in some cell phone video. LAPD was out in tactical gear, and we watched as they began detaining some people in the crowd.
And not arresting any of them, including the guy that tried to shoot fireworks at the police helicopter.
Thanks, Mother Goose.
They were warned, they were identified, and they were advised that if they do not leave and if they converge again and continue this illegal activity, they will be cited and in some cases arrested.
And nobody was.
That's right. In some cases arrested, meaning in no cases arrested.
As police continued with their skirmish lines trying to regain control of the streets,
except for that Chevron, that was lost. To the victor go the spoils.
We learned they were also looking for someone who shot fireworks toward the LAPD helicopter. What protesters...
No arrest for that either, huh?
Oh, no, that was mostly peaceful. They were just celebrating their favorite team winning.
What protesters hope is not lost in this chaos, their message to fight against the president's immigration policies and promises of mass deportations.
Oh, boy, here we go with the sob stories.
Not only is it me, I have a kid as well. And I wouldn't want my kid to be targeted and to be separated from me, even though he's a U.S. citizen. So that is a big thing because in my neighborhood, even in these streets, I am being targeted just because of the way I look, just because of the language that I speak.
My parents are immigrants, and I always grew up fearing that.
Wait a minute. You think you're targeting in the streets because of who you are? Not because you're shooting off fireworks at helicopters, not because you've taken over a Chevron, not because you've taken over a street and there's donuts going on and people getting run over. Oh no, you're being targeted because of your country of origin.
I always grew up fearing that, one day I was going to come home from school and they were just not going to be there anymore. And so I just feel like it's important.
And the fears of many in the community are shared with those people. This was just one of many demonstrations around Southern California and many more across the country. A day without an immigrant, so it was called. Businesses closed for the day, and people were encouraged not to shop or go to work or school. And LAPD...
Yeah, everyone went to work and school. Traffic was terrible.
Oh, traffic was horrendous yesterday.
And LAPD says you did see people in that video we showed you being detained. They were
not arrested. The video cuts off there.
I bet you the guy at the Chevron wishes he didn't go to work.
If the cashier is dummy.
Poor guy.
There you go. There's the ABC 7 report and the KCAL report on the mayhem from last night.
You notice, by the way, they talk about the Chevron being taken over and commandeered, or I forget the exact language that they used. I wonder if the Chevron was looted, too. Because what's the point of taking over a Chevron if you don't take all the cigarettes and lottery tickets?
That usually is the MO.
That's right. Right now, it's time for KABC Dependable Traffic. If you'd like to email the show, you can do so at johnnydontlikeshow@gmail.com. That's johnnydontlikeshow@gmail.com. And Randy, if you want to listen to us at 2 o'clock in the morning when you wake up in the middle of the night and can't fall back asleep, That's easy to do.
Like, let's say you just heard the name Imelda Padilla for the first time, and you want to figure out who that is.
Street pavements that are cooler.
Go to KABC.com, click on podcasts, go to the Apple Podcast app, iHeart, Spotify, search for The John Phillips Show, hit subscribe. You can download all the episodes. You could do a Google on the YouTube, which some kids call the Broken Windy Theory.
Broken Windy Theory.
Or get that handy-dandy KABC app. Search KABC AM in the Apple App Store or the Android Store. It's the easiest way to listen live to this radio station and download all the podcasts. All the down-ass kids are doing it.
The neighborhood kids, the down-ass kids don't like it.
And on Friday of this week, Randy, we're going on the road.
We're going to be in Santa Ana this Friday. Come see Johnny and I as we broadcast live from noon to 3, Friday the 7th at Rove Santa Ana. Rove Santa Ana is a full-service EV charging station. It's got a lounge, restrooms, Wi-Fi, a car wash, and a premium convenience store recharged by Gelson's. We're going to have free samples from vendors and barbecuing going on. So come hungry as we broadcast live. Rove and Recharge by Gelson's are located at 1008 East 17th Street in Santa Ana off the 5 at the corner of East 17th in Lincoln. We'll see you live Friday the 7th.
In the meantime, what do you say we make a couple of listeners very happy?
This is a very lucky audience here. 790 KABC welcomes the Outlaw Music Festival with Willie Nelson, Bob Dylan, Billy Strings, and more. It's at the Hollywood Bowl on May 16th. Tickets are on sale now at Ticketmaster.com. But right now, call in number 9 at 1-888-795-2222. Gets a pair of tickets to the show. Tickets furnished by Live Nation. Good luck dialing.
Coming up next, State Farm wants to jack up your rates due to the fires, even if your home didn't burn down in the fire. Well, we know that insurance rates are going to explode here in California. We know that at some point in the future, we would all be paying more. What we didn't know is that it would happen so quickly.
Well, when Ricardo Lara's in charge, you know that you have no protection.
I'm very kind of sketchy.
But here we go. State Farm, by the way, the insurer that dropped so many policies in the Palisades in the years leading up to those devastating fires, they want a 20% rate hike from everybody they do business with in the state.
What is the justification for that, given the fact that they dropped all the people in the sensitive area?
They say they're broke.
I see.
For more, here's KGO.
And, of course, the wildfires in L.A. shed some new light on California's home insurance crisis.
He said shed, right?
Yes, he did.
California's home insurance crisis. And today the industry is taking yet another hit. State Farm asking for an immediate emergency rate hike, potentially affecting all of its California policyholders.
You know, there's all that saber rattling that's been going on with Rob Bonta talking about price gouging and all the stuff about the rental market. How is this not price gouging?
Well, and talk about an industry that's heavily regulated. It's one thing if they're charging a certain amount for batteries. Batteries aren't regulated like utilities are or insurance companies. If an insurance company is jacking up the rates, and there are very specific rules as to how they can do it and what hoops they have to jump through, in theory, the electeds have more control over that than everything else.
Not anymore. If Ricardo Lara says sure, they get their way.
7 on your side, Stephanie Sierra joining us live in studio to tell us more about the implications here, Steph.
That's right, Julian. State Farm says it was already struggling prior to the LA County wildfires. So tonight we're getting a close...
Boy, they were so broke, I guess they couldn't afford that Super Bowl commercial with Arnold Schwarzenegger.
And isn't the stadium named after them, too?
The stadium in Arizona is where the Rams had to flee Los Angeles to pay there. So, yes, they're broke.
Sometimes your name is your destiny.
That's right, Julian. State Farm says it was already struggling prior to the LA County wildfires. So tonight we're getting a closer look at just how bad they claim their financial situation is and what critics have to say about it.
Do you think I could go to Lewis right now and say I need a 20% raise because I'm broke?
You could try. By the way, State Farm is the insurance company I do business with.
Not after this piece.
How long do you give it before they drop me?
That'll be the next thing you have to deal with. Once all the remodel stuff is done, then you're going to get dropped.
Joy.
In the wake of the LA fires, State Farm sent this letter to the California Department of Insurance, warning of its, quote, dire financial situation, requesting approval for an emergency rate hike. An average 22% increase for homeowners, a 15% increase for condo owners, and a 38% spike for rental dwellings.
Damn, they're really screwing over the renters.
Boy, they're hitting just about everyone.
State Farm's having trouble remaining profitable in California. And a big reason is that the claims, the cost of doing business have gone up.
Then why are you an insurance company?
Is Ricardo Lara quoted in this piece?
No, they didn't even try.
He is the one relevant person in this story.
Yeah, but he busy.
I'm very kind of sketchy.
State Farm is the country's largest insurer, responsible for 20% of the premiums in the areas affected by the LA wildfires. The company says it's received more than 8,700 claims and has already paid $1 billion to customers.
Yeah, but how much money do you collect in premiums every year from California?
And you keep jacking it up, and I'm well aware of this.
When there are claims, it's more expensive to repair the homes or even have to rebuild a new home from scratch. Construction costs, construction materials, those prices have gone way up.
But critics say State Farm refuses to provide proof it needs the hike.
You don't say.
But they have the insurance commissioner in their pocket, so who cares?
This request is really outrageous. To this point, State Farm has only delayed and refused to respond to requests both from Consumer Watchdog and the Department of Insurance to prove the rate increase it sought was justified.
Carmen Balber.
But forget that. Ricardo Lara gave every single insurance company a 60-day fast track if they would just write 5% more policies.
Shouldn't he be all over the news right now, explaining what's going on, holding our hand, walking us through it, instead of hiding out?
No.
Carmen Balber, the executive director of Consumer Watchdog, argues records show State Farm has plenty in the bank, reporting the company made $1.4 billion in homeowners insurance from 2020 to 2022. And she says State Farm's parent company has $135 billion in the bank.
Oh, boy. So they're not broke.
No.
And if anyone should be bailing out State Farm in California, it's the parent company who's profited.
In order for this to...
No, we're going to do exactly what we did when PG&E went bankrupt. We bailed them out, and now PG&E is making every ratepayer pay for it.
You notice, by the way, outside of John Garamendi, there's no other elected officials that are being critical of Ricardo Lara's performance. Gavin Newsom isn't saying anything about it. State legislative leaders aren't saying anything about it. Past insurance commissioners aren't saying anything about it. It's literally one person who's out there going after him.
In order for this to move forward, the rate hike has to be approved by the state's insurance commissioner, Ricardo Lara. In response to State Farm's announcement, his office wrote, "To protect millions of California consumers and the integrity of our residential property insurance market, the department will respond with urgency and transparency to recommend a course of action for Commissioner Lara."
Which is, rate hike? You got it.
Okay, go back and let's replay that statement one more time, because what they said is nothing. They said we'll review the request and we'll make a decision.
In response to State Farm's announcement, his office wrote, "To protect millions of California consumers and the integrity of our residential property insurance market, the department will respond with urgency and transparency to recommend a course of action for Commissioner Lara."
That is nothing. By the way, guess who got approval for a 30% rate hike last year? State Farm.
And Ricardo Lara will issue that statement, but he won't go on television and explain himself.
It's shameful for State Farm to be trying to take advantage of this tragedy.
Now, State Farm was already granted a 20% rate increase in March of last year. 4 months later, the company requested another 30% hike last July, but that one was never approved. So today's rate hike request would amend that one. And Julian, if approved...
Instead of 30%, we want 22%. Again, this is all on top of the 30% they got last year.
So this is just a negotiation to find out what the increase is going to be.
And Julian, if approved, it would go into effect May 1st.
There you go. Get ready for your homeowners insurance rates to jack up in the month of
May. And no explanation from the California Insurance Commissioner.
I'm very kind of sketched.
Can we please stop voting for him for anything?
Oh, no, he'll go and get elected to some other office. The good thing is he'll be termed out as insurance commissioner, so we'll get some other dope in that office. But he's going to go become an L.A. County supervisor, or lieutenant governor, or something else.
Based on what record of success?
Based on the fact that it's a one-party state, and despite the fact that he's awful at his job, he's in good standing with the Democratic Party. So my guess is he'll move on to something else. And if he doesn't run for another office, they'll appoint him to some board or commission, or he'll become a lobbyist, or he'll do something for one of the insurance companies that he was regulating. His career is not going to end in disgrace. That much I can tell you.
Ricardo Lara failing upward is everything that's wrong with California.
No kidding. If you'd like to email the show, you can do so at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. That's johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. And Randy, you're monitoring the mailbag.
Judy writes in at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com on the protests. We have a new DA. We have a new LAPD chief. Why are these protesters being allowed to shut down the 101 and commandeer a gas station?
Well, the police chief is appointed by the mayor and can be fired, essentially, by the politicians. So if he doesn't do what Karen Bass wants him to do, he's a goner. The district attorney can only take cases that are given to him by the police department and then decide whether or not he's going to file charges. If the cops have been told to stand down and not arrest anyone, then nothing's being turned over to the DA. The DA has to work with the police department. And the police department is clearly being given instructions to look the other way. The problem here is the mayor. Karen Bass is a complete and total failure across the board, and every day we get new evidence.
It's not a namsy-pamsy thing.